You're listening to Women's Dream Enlightenment, dream decoding, deep discussions, and spiritual stories of self-discovery to inspire your personal enlightened journey. I'm your host, Megan Mary, founder of Women's Dream Analysis. Let's bring in the light. Welcome. Today we have Julianna Whitlow. She is a spiritual self-discovery coach that supports those that have gone through a significant life event that has rocked their core identity and are now seeking to answer the question, who am I? Through tools such as soul retrieval and soul reflection, she helps you unlock your soul's memory of who you really are by opening up your Clair's energy senses. Welcome, Julianna.
Hi, thank you for having me. So excited.
Yes, I'm so happy to have you here too. I love this topic, and I haven't had really anyone speak about it yet on my podcast. So I'm really honored to have you here to share that with everyone.
Honored to be here. This is going to be great.
So, my first question that I ask everyone is, what does enlightenment mean to you?
Enlightenment to me is about remembering who you are and tapping into that soul essence, truly understanding who you are as a soul being.
Yes, I completely agree with that. And I think it's so much the journey that we are all on and the challenge that we face, right? It's like
Yes,
we may know that, but we don't know how to do that.
exactly.
So tell the listeners a little bit about your journey to discovering the Clairs, and then we'll talk about what the Clairs are.
Okay. So my journey started in 2020, and I always find this very interesting because if you would have explained me who I am before 2020, a spiritual person would not even come close. Who I am today would not even be close to what I would use to explain myself. And this came about by experiencing what I now know is what is Clair Sentience, which is Clair feeling. So that's about tapping into your energy sense of feeling energy around you. And I kind of got slapped over the head, so to speak, with an experience where grief hit me significantly, a death hit me significantly. And it was a death of an animal. And when I experienced it, I felt everything. I felt it take its last breath. I felt the fear. I felt the peace. And it left me in one of those things of like, what in the world was that? And what is this about? It rocked me to my core, so to speak. And it set me on a discovery of what is it? What is this? What's going on? And that's how I got introduced to your energy senses or your clairs. And understanding that our clairs are just like our physical senses. But instead of using them for the physical world, we use them for the energetic world. And it allows us to connect in to different energies. So, of course, we have clairsentience, which I just spoke about, which is feeling or clear feeling. And then we have clairvoyance, which is seeing, clairaudience, which is hearing, claircognizance, which is knowing, clairalience, and clairgustance, which is tasting and smelling. And there's a bunch more, but those are the big ones that we usually talk about. And we're able to tap into those to receive different messages, different guidance to help us through our journey.
That was a really great short explanation because I think so many people don't really, they've heard of clairvoyance probably,
Mhm.
but not of the others. And also just don't really understand how they're different from other terms that they hear every day. So how those are different from psychic or medium or empath or channel, for example, because those are more common, I think.
Exactly. And we can all experience those. We have all the clairs. We experience them differently. So just like I might experience touch differently than you might experience touch, our clairs are the same. So a lot of times we see clairvoyance, I'll use that as a great example because a lot of people know that, as physically seeing with the eyes. It can be. It could also be seeing with the mind's eye. It could also be termed as an imagination. And it's a way of seeing things outside of the physical reality. And everyone experiences those differently. So understanding, one, how you experience them, two, what is your strongest clair, and then three, going from there and tapping into the other clairs. And being a psychic or being a medium is communicating with energy. So once you learn how to open up your clairs and use those senses, really it's limitless on what you can do as long as you are wanting to do that. Because it is all about what you want and how you want to live.
I love the name of your business, A Clair Mindset. And partly because I think it's a great play on words, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's using, but then there's another twist, right? Which is,
My middle name is Claire.
so that's even more fabulous. Yes.
Mm-hmm. It's
That's,
one of those things where, like, we talk about, destiny, and we talk about purpose, and we talk all about that. And, it came to me probably about a year ago. They're like, how much clearer could we have made the name of your business of what you were supposed to focus on and do? We literally put it in your name. We put it in your middle name. And I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you for the guidance.
yes. Yes. Seeing the forest for the trees, or right. It's one of those
Yes,
things. Yes.
absolutely.
So, in your experience, how do people usually discover their gifts? And is there one that usually comes first? Or is it different for everyone?
It is different for everyone, honestly, especially with the clairs. I have a quiz on my website that I can give you the link to so that people can go and take the quiz and it can tell them the strongest clair. And then they can kind of start from there on their journey. But it's about interest and about understanding it. A lot of times people usually have a significant event that happens, and that's what triggers them into going down this path. There's very few, and I'm seeing it actually picking up recently, who are just curious and just wanting to start. There's usually a significant event of like, what in the world just happened, and who am I really? And that's what starts on that whole journey. Our gifts is about understanding who we are at a soul level, because that's what our gifts are. It's about bringing who we truly are to the surface and living through that.
I found that same exact thing, that something has to usually really rock you, shift you. It can be a loss or a major, in my case, medical catastrophe, or just something major that really makes you question and also reevaluate.
Yes.
And something that you had said when you initially had reached out to me was that, are we learning our gifts and abilities or just remembering?
Mm-hmm.
And that resonated with me so much, because I often say the word spiritual awakening, but for me and for so many others, it's a remembering.
It really is. When a lot of times when I see I work with clients, they're taking this as something that we learned in school. They're trying to put what they have physically done and how they physically learn to expanding onto their clairs and to their gifts. And it's a totally different approach because it's about going within and really remembering and healing to be able to open that back up. I believe that we're born with this, and at some point in our lives, through different events, we have closed this off. And it could be something as what we just didn't use it, right? Because if we don't use our senses, they're going to dull. So when we're in a physical world, we're not using our energetic senses, they're going to dull. So it is about remembering and tapping back into that, but also stepping back a little bit from the physical world.
Yes. And so often people just discard and disregard their what they are sensing, and they
Yeah.
they are getting information, and they are seeing coincidences, and they are seeing synchronicities, and they are saying, oh, isn't that weird that, oh, I had this feeling that, but they just don't know what to do with it. They don't know how it fits into this 3D world. and they're very afraid in most cases to embrace it, much less come out in public and talk about it,
Absolutely.
which is a whole nother ballgame. And it's really because there's so much baggage and cultural judgment about that type of ability or expression or awareness, because it's not something that's so concrete, and so it's not as accepted, and there's a lot of fear around really stepping into alignment with that and owning that. And so many women have these abilities already happening in their life. I mean, we all do, but so many are so gifted too,
Yes.
and they're just not harnessing it, and they're not embracing it, and they're pushing it down because they don't really know how to make that exist in the world that they are living in.
Exactly. And I'm working with one of my clients now, and she is like, how do I balance my religion, my upbringing, my beliefs, and my spirituality? And I said, you accept them as one and the same. You put them together and accept them as one and the same because they truly are. It's about understanding where you are aligning and what your soul is pushing you to, and being comfortable with sometimes that not being accepted in our physical world by family, friends, acquaintances, and being okay to stand in your truth. Because I was one of those people who, very black and white, very black and white, and very physical. If you could not physically prove it in front of me, I was not going to believe it. But when I experienced that remembering or that awakening, I physically experienced it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my family and everyone were like, you've just lost your mind.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I knew my truth.
Yeah.
And the one thing that's always been guiding light to me is my truth. My whole life is my truth. And I have to stand in my truth.
Yes.
So, with that, over years of healing and everything else, I've been able to get where I am now. But it's so important to honor your truth and who you really are.
Yes. Thank you for saying that. I think that's what everyone needs to hear, to be honest. And like you said, yes, there is a fear that everyone's going to say, well, you're a little,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of concern about that, right? But it's at the end of the day, you can't live your life based on what other people are going to say, especially when you feel so compelled, so drawn. And particularly in my experience, there was this real sense of urgency and this real, like you said, palpable physical way that I was perceiving, okay, yes, I don't know what this is exactly, but it's never going to be the same. And I can't go back, and I have to go forward as fast as possible.
Right? At the
Yeah.
beginning, you're like, we have to go as fast as possible. I experience that as well, and I experience it with my clients. It's like as fast as possible because it's almost uncomfortable. It's like you're cracked open, but you're not fully open and comfortable in your who you are. So you're like in this in between that can feel very uncomfortable, very unsettling. So I
Yeah.
totally relate to that.
And I also like what you said about just kind of that looking at the senses, the five physical senses, as everyone accepts, and then the Clair senses, and how they might not be the same for everyone. So, for example, the idea that maybe if you're clairaudient, the idea that you're quote unquote hearing voices, which
Yeah.
of course is another trope and another, societal construct, right?
Right.
Because it doesn't really work that way. It's not exactly like you'd think, like a psychotic break. It's not like that, And so I think there's a huge amount of misconceptions around, and also around, of course, clairvoyance. And what do you find the biggest misconceptions are around the different clairs, and maybe the blockages that either
Oh
people
yeah.
that you work with have or people that you interact with?
The first one, the biggest one, is everyone wants it right now. They want to work on it. They want to be fully open. They want all their clairs on. And I'm going to give you a great example of why we don't want this. My son, at 10 years old, we found out he had a hearing loss and he needed to go get hearing aids. So we went and we did the whole process and he came home with hearing aids. And on the way home, he was so overwhelmed. He just couldn't take the noise, the sound of the cars, the wind, just absolutely everything. He was just like, I have to turn these off. I have to take this out. It's just too overwhelming for me. Because he went from whatever his normal was of hearing to all the way open, all the way able to hear every little thing that came through. And I would be talking, and I got accustomed to talking kind of loud because, again, he had a little bit of hearing loss. And he's like, why are you yelling? I need you to lower your voice. And I'm like, I promise I'm not yelling at you. So these are great examples of why we don't want all of a sudden every clair open, because
Yeah.
it'll just hit you and it's so overwhelming. You want to be able to heal and process and make it more of a journey. And then the other ones is fear. The biggest block is fear. And there's so many different layers of fear. Fear of being seen, fear of being known, fear of being hurt, what we've been told, all these different things. So fear is a big one that we have to overcome. And a lot of people, what we do is we label it as one thing. But then when I work with people and I say, let's break this down and let's go. And I'm like, if you're not into probably the first 5 years of your life, you haven't hit the real reason of where this is truly coming from. Because that is where these blocks have occurred and have happened. And there's been time and time again that it's repeated. And therefore concreted itself into our subconscious that this isn't safe or that we can't do this. So a lot of times you'll see that where cycles will repeat. And what that's showing you is it's honestly telling your subconscious and your conscious that, see, I was right. That's the ego coming through and saying, I was right. This isn't safe. Here's another example of it. Versus just changing the way we look at it. And just saying, oh, this is a great opportunity to walk through, to understand, to see the purpose of it, to get to the true reasoning. So it's all about your perspective and how you want to approach things. It's one way of saying how we approach things almost like a victim mentality versus really standing in your power and saying, this didn't happen to me, this happened for me.
Yes. And I'd like you to incorporate into that the surrender concept, because I was listening to you talk about that earlier today. And I thought, yeah, this is really an important piece here too.
Yes. So my logo is a woman's face and she has flowers all over her eyes. And the purpose of that logo is that we have to trust and surrender to the universe without any physical senses to be guided on our journey. We might not know physically where we're going, we may not be able to physically sense it, but we have to fully surrender to be able to walk through it. And that is the most complicated thing for a lot of us. We want to hold on to some type of control. We think we're in full control. So allowing yourself to fully surrender and trust and let go and follow the guidance and know when the guidance is coming, that's the key to unlocking all of it.
Yes. I thought that was so profound and important that I just wanted to bring that up, because it's really difficult, right? We're always struggling we want to be guided. We want to activate all of our highest gifts, but we also struggle so hard holding on to the tether of this reality. And we have to, right? Because we have to exist here. And so it's like, how do we balance those two? And we want to just be able to say, go ahead and show me, basically. And that's what I've been wanting to say, because I actually had a dream where I was saying, show me, very strongly. And it was part of this whole journey where I then was shown. And it really, the dreams for me are a huge portal where all of this guidance comes through. And when I started listening to them, all this, beautiful story and messages and guidance and everything was coming through like, wow, I mean, it's all really happening there. But then when I would wake up and realize it was all really happening here too.
Oh yes,
And
absolutely.
that's because I was surrendering to it. I was saying, okay, I had no plans to do this, but I know that I'm being called. So show me what I'm supposed to do. And the more I followed that, the more it just opened up the world. I mean, cracked open the world, and
Absolutely.
people, women from everywhere just started coming in saying, yes, I want to be a part of this. And had I not surrendered to that, that would have never been possible.
No, and one of the things I speak about this, and it was such a small thing going on in my life, but it was driving me nuts. We were trying to renovate our house, and we could not find a construction person. We could not find the right person to do it. And we were getting so frustrated. And finally, my husband had it, and he's like, "We're doing it ourselves." And we took a sledgehammer to the wall one day. The very next morning, I got a call that someone needed a place to live and was moving from Florida to Virginia, and they were a construction worker, someone that could come and do the renovation of the house. So it's literally about, I went months of fighting it. Like, no, I have to do it this way. I have to research. I have to call the people. I have to find my person. I have to take control of it. And the second I said, okay, that's it, I'm done, take a sledgehammer to the wall, everything just fell into place. And I was
Yes.
like, that is a reminder to myself to truly step back and surrender.
Right. Yes. And it's such a delicate balance, like I was saying, because there is some aspect of doing
Mm-hmm.
once you receive the guidance, but it's knowing where that line is where you're overdoing, I guess. And overdoing turns into controlling and
Yes.
expectation versus following. It's a very fine line.
The other thing too for me is with surrender is, am I hitting a fear? Because before we took the sledgehammer to the wall, there was fear. There was absolute fear, right? Of like, we don't know what we're doing. We can't do this. What are the repercussions? All of that. There was fear. And once I really sat down and started working through the fear of where it's coming from, I realized it doesn't apply to the situation I'm in. It is not my truth in the moment that I am in right now. And once I accepted that and took the sledgehammer, everything worked through. So the piece of it is, are you coming up against fear? Because if you're coming up against fear, I encourage you to step back and really see, is this a moment for you to surrender to the fear, to work through it and see what is the message that's trying to be told to you.
Yes. Yes. It's powerful. I want to also talk a little bit about your work as a death priestess.
Yes.
I find this very fascinating, and I know it's not something that is very common. And so I'd love for you to explain your how you came to do that work and what is involved in that.
Absolutely. It started out with mediumship. It started out with mediumship and going through that. And then it after finding a group of people, I started understanding what death work and things really were. And I started understanding some of my dreams. And what I experience in my dreams is I when I dream, it's almost as if I'm not myself, I'm someone else. And most of the time I experience that person's death, what happened in that person's death. And through the dream, it can be a little harsh because I can literally, sense it, feel it, all of that. And it's almost like I'm helping the spirit or the soul work through whatever it was that happened, however they came to pass. And I get different shots of kind of what happened, what occurred. And through that, what I've realized is it kind of helps the soul heal and move on. So started out with mediumship. And then when I had that understanding of my dreams, I was like, that was a big eye opener for me because I had dreamed this my whole life. I just never understood it. I thought they were nightmares, right?
Mhm.
And I kept saying, but it's not me. It's not me going through it. It's like I'm seeing it, but I knew it wasn't me. But I would still come to say they're nightmares. That's what I've always been told. And then when I sat there and I was like, no, this isn't nightmares. This is me helping someone or helping a soul heal.
Mm.
And that has helped me understand the different gifts I have of being able to work with souls that have passed. The other reason I call myself a death priestess is the death card and the high priestess card in tarot. You put those two together, that's my energy. And I help people navigate those times in their life where they have death moments, where something has come to an end, a significant change in their life, whether it be a physical death or it be a loss or it be an end of a relationship or something new is beginning. And they're sitting here like, I don't even know who I am anymore. I help people navigate that. I believe that we walk a thin line with one foot in the physical world, one foot in the spiritual world. And I help people navigate that thin line so that they can keep the one foot in the physical world, one foot in the spiritual world, and fully understand who they are.
Yes, our work overlaps so much right there. Yes, because I really feel that I straddle the realms
Mm-hmm.
completely. And I that middle space between waking and dreaming, and really spending so much time delving into the darkness and the shadows and the inner world that's so mystical of dreams, and then helping people bring that into this life to integrate those learnings themselves. That really, so many times they are in transition, and it could be any number of transitional periods that can bring you to that point. Sometimes people don't understand that loss and the term trauma can in fact be much smaller things than they think that means. They always think it means violence or death, and there are so many forms of loss and so many forms of trauma that the definition really doesn't do it justice. All the different emotional things that we need to clear, that we also store in our subconscious. And like you
Absolutely.
were saying earlier, it's all, a lot of it, from our childhood. I think the majority of our subconscious forms from age, birth to 7. And so many things that we learn about how we think the world is get cemented, like you said, then. And then we just build our life around them, and we go around thinking, well, that's the way it is. And we don't realize that we're just listening to our subconscious and what we learned at some point, but it's not necessarily that reality for other people. And it doesn't have to be for us, that we can change that by really unearthing, and in my case, decoding what those things are that we're carrying with us.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things, like when you're doing the soul work and the trauma work, it's important to understand. And I like how you broke that down. It's not always these big things. A lot of times I'll be grieving and I'm like, what am I even grieving over? And then it'll be it'll come to me and I'm like, that's so small. I don't have a right to grieve over it. And it's like, yes, you do. You
Mm-hmm.
really have to step back and give yourself permission. And one of the things I always like to tell people is we really go through a death moment every single day. We go to sleep and we are not the same person we were yesterday. We are reborn every
Mm-hmm.
day, every moment. So understanding that there's a constant cycle of us allowing ourselves to be reborn, to understand, to get a deeper understanding, and allowing ourselves to just be open to whatever it is the universe is trying to show us.
Yeah, I love that. I love thinking about it that way, because there are so many small deaths, right?
It really is.
Yeah. And when we're on our journey, it's like we constantly have to let things die. We have to
Yeah.
let go of things every day. It it's really, whether we're doing it strategically or on purpose or not, it's the only way that we can grow and actually evolve on that enlightenment journey, is to constantly be willing to do that releasing, right?
And that's the important part of releasing it, right? We don't hold on to it. We don't store the energy somewhere in us. We allow it to go. We let it go. Because if we store it within us, that's where we start getting our physical ailments. That's where we start getting
Yep,
disease and sickness.
absolutely. And that's what I always say, is that when we don't tend to our spirit, then we create a state of dis-ease in the body, and then we get more and more out of alignment, and our conditions get worse and worse, which is what happened to me, until we start to say, okay, I need to address something. I don't know what it is, but I can't go on this way. And I need to figure out what it is that I'm not paying attention to and that can help me heal inside, not just on a cellular level.
Yes. Not getting stuck on just healing the physical body.
Right. So, what should everyone stop doing and start doing when they want to go down this road and discover their Clair senses?
Give yourself grace. Give yourself grace. So let go of the judgment. Let go of holding yourself to a certain standard, and just give yourself grace and be open to be open, to be honest, be open. Surrender and be open, because you will be surprised about what comes your way. And the more open you are, the more you're going to gain out of it.
And what should everyone stop doing?
Stop trying to define yourself through other people's lenses.
Mhm. Yes, it's
Stand in your truth.
very powerful. Yes. So, what's next for you on your journey?
I have the Surrender program, which is a program I absolutely love right now, where we focus on different techniques to truly heal yourself, mind, body, and soul, to allow you to not only open up your clairs, but live through them. Have them every day, have them guide you. Truly live through your clairs and experience it just like we live through our physical senses, right? We don't even think about seeing or hearing or touching, we just do. So allowing yourself to truly live through your clairs.
And what other programs do you offer? I saw some other Holy Fire
Yes,
Reiki.
we have a group program, and we have a couple people that have offered Holy Fire Reiki, and you can learn how to do Holy Fire Reiki, as well as we have the Clairs, we have Surrender, we have the Holy Fire Reiki, and different retreats that we host every year.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
We actually have one coming up in October
Oh,
in
okay.
Tennessee. Yes.
So where can people find you online? Where are you around the interwebs?
Yeah, so my website is aclairmindset.com. Or my biggest one is TikTok. It's A_Claire_mindset. Um, and we can put that in the notes because there's a lot of fake accounts, unfortunately. But so
Sure.
that way they can look at it truly. And then we have a Facebook group called The Thin Line.
Hmm.
And that's where we really work on keeping one foot in the physical, one foot in the spiritual, and we walk that thin line every day.
So if you could give the listeners a brief explanation before we go about the different Clairs, giving a little bit of time to each one, because I feel like we may have piqued their interest, but we may not have said enough about
Okay.
each one. So let's go through each one and just say a little bit
Yeah.
about how they work.
Clairsentience, there's a few different types of clairsentience, but we're going to grab it into one. And it's really clear feeling. This can be physical feeling. You can physically feel things on your body, like goosebumps, touches, things like that. It can be emotions and understanding those different emotions. One of mine was with depression and anxiety through my whole life. And then when I realized clairsentience and I realized how to work with my clairsentience, I was able to completely change my life and not be ruled by that depression and anxiety because I realized I'm picking up other people's energy. So knowing
Yes.
how to work with your clairs so that you're not always open and just grabbing everything and feeling everything is really important. And clairsentience can be a little difficult because it's not physical. And what I kept thinking something's wrong with me. It's me. And it wasn't. It was what was around me and being able to understand that. So a block with clairsentience that we come up with is knowing and understanding what you're truly feeling and understanding why you're feeling it. So that was kind of like a big thing about clairsentience, knowing like and how to understand how to shield yourself, how to kind of block the energy around you so you can understand what is truly yours versus what is someone else's.
Right.
Clear clairvoyance is seeing. And people see many different ways. You can physically see energy right in front of you with your physical eyes. Some people, it is in the mind's eye. And some people must determine it as an imagination. And it comes through different, so a lot of people say a movie reel will play in front of them. Like they'll just see like a movie reel go through. There's so many different versions of clairvoyance. And allowing yourself to be open to that. A great way to know about clairvoyance is when you listen to music, does your mind kind of take off somewhere? And all of a sudden this whole story is playing in your head and you have like all these characters and all this stuff going on and you can like almost see it. That's a good example of clairvoyance. Or when you're reading a book, can you see the characters? Can you actually see them in your mind? And all that's clairvoyance. So allowing yourself to say, oh, that's clairvoyance. That's not just my imagination. And that allows you to expand into how to use that for energy senses.
Mm-hmm.
A block with clairvoyance is one, defining it, trying to stick to a specific definition, and two, fear. The biggest one I see is fear, the fear of seeing. Clairaudience is clear hearing, and yes, you can hear physical voices. You can also, it's almost like a voice in your own mind, it's your own voice that comes through, but you wouldn't have any other knowledge of it. So it's almost like this information comes through to you. A great way to exercise with clairaudience is music and seeing what kind of messages come through for you with music. Maybe a certain phrase sticks out, maybe a certain sentence, maybe the whole song plays. So what is it that is coming through for you? Another one is when you read and you're reading different characters, do the characters have different voices? Like as you're reading and the characters are starting, do the characters all of a sudden have different voices to you? The form of clairaudience and being able to tap into that and then move it to being able to use it for your energy senses. And we have claircognizance, which is knowing, clear knowing. These are the people that you just know things. You don't really understand how you know it. Those are the wise people, the people that go to for advice. Older, they always seem older than what they really are. And the block with it is not trusting and believing in it. Right? We know it. It's like, okay, I know I should go left and not right, but logically, right shorter, so of course I'm going to go right. Well, no, claircognizance was telling you to go left. There's a reason you were supposed to go left. So understanding those things and really accepting it and stepping into it. And then we have clairalience and clairgustance, which is again the senses of taste and smell. And knowing that with these, there's so many different variations of it. You can physically taste and physically smell. Sometimes it's almost like a memory of it though. A memory of a taste or a memory of a smell comes through. All right? We don't necessarily physically taste it or smell it. And allowing ourselves to work with it. And the biggest block is not trusting it. It's the same thing. I'll never forget, I was on a live one day on TikTok and I was like, why am I smelling peanut butter cookies? Like someone's baking fresh peanut butter cookies. I don't like peanut butter cookies. So why am I smelling peanut butter cookies? And not someone on my live was literally baking peanut butter cookies at the time. So trusting it and just having fun with it and allowing yourself to play with it. When I'm doing mediumship work or anything like that, a memory a lot of times will come through. Another strong one is cigarettes, the taste of the smell of cigarettes. So knowing what is that comes through and then leaning into it, getting curious is what I like to say. Get curious with it. Why is it coming through for you? What is truly going on? And allowing that to just happen.
That was wonderful. Yes, man. I mean, everybody has them, right? They just don't know how to tap into them, or they don't realize that they are. So all of those things that you said, and I mean, I'm clairaudient, like that's my strongest one. And I hear song lyrics all the time in my dreams that are messages. And because I'm a huge music fan and I know song lyrics.
Thanks for listening.
Millions of songs,
are you a woman wondering what your dreams mean?
And so
are you seeking enlightenment and wanting to connect with your true purpose and higher self?
And so I will
check out womensdreamanalysis.com to begin exploring the transformative power of your dreams.
I know.
If you like this episode, please subscribe. If you'd like to share your self-discovery story, spiritual gifts, or have your dream interpreted on the podcast, please go to dreamenlightenment.com.
Here then also be hearing and receiving those messages. And also so much of what you said about the memory of a scent or the memory of a taste, I feel like that is also one of the ways that we literally time travel.
Yes.
Because we return to that moment when we smelt or tasted that, and we can remember it as if we are. And in that moment, the time and space are NA, like they just kind of melt away, and we're able to experience something from another time and space in this same one. And so, and so many people,
those are very powerful ones too. I agree with you. When you have those memories, all of a sudden come through. Mine is apple juice. I swear to you, my grandmother had this certain type of apple juice, which she really didn't. It was a store-bought apple juice, but to me, for some reason, it tasted totally different. I can never find it. But I remember the taste, and every time that taste comes, I can see her whole entire kitchen. I can see her standing there. I can totally experience it again. And that's the beauty of it. If you allow yourself to just step back and allow it, surrender to it.
yes. When we were selling our last house, we were having a hard time initially selling it. We had tons of people come in and look at it. And then we finally had this couple come in, and they left, and we went into the kitchen to make dinner, and I was unloading the dishwasher, and I bent over and I saw her at the dishwasher, unloading the dishwasher.
Oh.
And I said, it's going to be them. And it was. And so it's that kind of thing, right? It's just, you just get this. It's almost, for people who don't know, they're going to just think of it as an idea.
Yeah.
I had this idea.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I had this idea. Yeah.
Because that's how it is. And it seems more mysterious than that when other people are talking about it. You're like, but I don't have this great vision, It's just a passing thought, really. But it's in your mind's eye. And then you kind of go, oh, that was weird. I was just thinking about this. And that's really how it is. And to demystify it a little bit, because I think so many people go, oh, well, I've had that. And it's like, yes, you have.
Yeah. Everyone has, right? And
right.
It's just about allowing yourself to be open to it.
Yes. It's all about being open. Yes. And that's really the beauty of what any kind of self-help work or any kind of personal discovery work, and also with dream work, you have to be open. You have to be willing to say, okay, I'm going to dive into this mystery, because maybe there is something going on that I'm not acknowledging, and I'm going to grow by acknowledging this. And this is going to make my life fuller and better. And yeah, like you said, setting aside the fear, because that's really what stops everyone, right?
It is what stops absolutely everyone. Is they hit that fear, and sometimes even anger, because right, anger can a lot of times covers up fear.
Yeah.
And they stop right there.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing all this with us today. It was a wonderful conversation. I hope it sparked interest and intrigue in other people, and that they will start, questioning, opening to maybe the possibilities of what they can actually do.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me. It's been so much fun.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Are you a woman wondering what your dreams mean? Are you seeking enlightenment and wanting to connect with your true purpose and higher self? Check out womensdreamanalysis.com to begin exploring the transformative power of your dreams. If you like this episode, please subscribe. If you'd like to share your self-discovery story, spiritual gifts,